Prophet ﷺ said, whoever builds a masjid for Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build for them a home in paradise. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repays the favor. You build his home here, even though he doesn't need you to increase his kingdom, and he builds your home there, and you have no kingdom without the King of all kings. And while building an entire masjid is impossible for most, even a small spot of a masjid here can turn out as a palace for you there in Jannah. The second one is whoever prays 12 extra rak'ahs a day. And the connotation here is that a person prays these 12 rak'ahs in their home, because the Prophet ﷺ generally used to pray his sunnahs at home. So your sunnahs at home and a home in paradise in return. The Prophet ﷺ said, though, in the broadest sense, whoever prays 12 rak'ahs for the sake of Allah, apart from the fard, apart from the obligatory prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build a home in paradise for that person. And of course, the most beautiful 12 rak'ahs that you could pray are the ones that the Prophet ﷺ was most consistent with. So he would pray ﷺ 2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, and 2 after Isha. But the reward here in this hadith isn't actually restricted to just those 12. Now, if you think about what stops us from praying sunnah, usually a person would say, maybe I'm busy and I just can't really allot that much time for it. And sometimes it feels like we can barely even get the fard in. We can barely even get the obligatory prayers in because we've got work to do. But think of it this way. Is a good day's work in this dunya, building an entire home, like would that be a salary that you're pleased with if you came home every day and you had a new home? What about building a home in Jannah? And subhanAllah, the hardest sunnah to pray is the one in the middle of the workday. And there's so much more reward to it. We also have another narration which shows the breadth of this reward. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prays the 4 rak'ahs of ishraq, of sunrise, and then 4 rak'ahs before the dhuhr salah, Allah will build for him a house in paradise. So those are the sunnah prayers. The next one is so easy and it can be done at any time of the day. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man qara'a qul huwallahu ahad, whoever reads qul huwallahu ahad 10 times, bana Allahu lahu baytan fil Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build that person a home in Jannah. SubhanAllah, the reward of this surah, which is the surah that elaborates on the key to Jannah, which is kalimatul ikhlas, the statement of sincerity. La ilaha illallah. Qul huwallahu ahad is basically an elaboration of La ilaha illallah. And you read the surah 10 times, and it's not something that you can only do once a day. And it could be done in a couple of minutes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala builds you a palace in Jannah. So what if you read it 20 or 30 or 40 times a day? Then the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the dua before sleep. And there are a few du'as before we go to sleep, but this one is specific to the reward. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does wudu and then goes to sleep on their right side and says, Allahumma aslamtu nafsi ilayk wa fawwadtu amri ilayk wa wajjahtu wajhi ilayk wa alja'tu dhahri ilayk raghbatan wa rahbatan ilayk. O Allah, I submit myself to you. I entrust my affairs to you. I turn my face to you, and I lay myself down depending upon you, hoping in you, and fearing in you. لا ملجأ ولا منجا منك إلا إليك آمنت بكتابك الذي أنزلت وبنبيك الذي أرسلت. There is no refuge and no escape from you except to you. I believe in your book, the Quran that you revealed, and I believe in the Prophet ﷺ that you have sent. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever says this before sleeping, in one narration he said ﷺ that this person dies on the fitrah, they die on their natural disposition. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, a home will be built for that person in paradise. The gem here is that you are saying there is no refuge or shelter from you, O Allah, except to you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you shelter in the form of what? A palace in paradise. What a great shelter to have, subhanAllah, from the storm of this dunya. Now the last of this genre is a form of dhikr that you would say when entering into the suq or any marketplace. So even if you're logging on to like an online marketplace, say this dua. You never know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might give you the reward. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever enters into the suq and says, La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, يحيي ويميت وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. That none has the right to be worshipped except Allah alone. He has no partner. To him belongs all sovereignty and praise. He gives life and causes death, and he is ever living and does not die. In his hand is all good, and he has power over all things. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will wipe 1,000,000 sins from his record and grant him 1,000,000 good deeds and elevate him by 1,000,000 degrees. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build for that person a home in paradise. Ask yourself, what would you buy in the marketplace more precious than that home in paradise? So remember the dua next time you go shopping.